Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Cristianos deck profile for post-Fated Clash. This is the final deck for the 6 start decks for me to update with the support from the first set for Cardfight Vanguard Divines Fated Clash. This deck focuses on being able to call out units from your drop to the field and then just having more setup depending on the units called out, along with the initial Persona Ride power that we had from all of the 6 different start decks. And as I said, this is the final one to be updated with the support from Fated Clash. We are getting more support for these decks to work with the next set, Illusionless Strife, so definitely look forward to updates to all of the decks from that set. Probably will be going in a very similar order to the last lineup of decks that I've done for the video, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck to start off, we have our energy generator along with our grade 0, which sadly with the start deck we didn't get a starter with an ability, so we're just using any starter that you have, just using Bioroid Youth Roroa for this list. Our grade 1 is Knowledge Seeking Fairy Strabera. When rode upon by Variety Feast Dragon, draw 2 cards, choose 2 cards from your hand, and discard them. So setting up your cards in your drop zone is a big part of the Cristianos playstyle. So being a draw 2, discard 2 effect definitely does help with that. With our grade 2 being Variety Feast Dragon, when rode upon by a grade 3 with Cristianos card name, choose a grade 1 or less card from your drop and call it to rearguard, which you'll have more and more drop setup thanks to other cards like Cristianos as well. With the 1 copy we run in the ride deck, along with the 3 additional copies that we run in the actual main deck itself. On the Vanguard circle, once per turn, you have the Counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as this unit, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets plus 10,000 till end of turn. So the search power for the Persona Ride, but the other card effect comes down to its drop zone setup. On the Vanguard circle, once per turn, you can Energy Blast 4, discard the top 2 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 grade 3 or less unit cards from your drop zone, and call them to rear. This is the setup that I mentioned before, with this card just being able to call more and more units back out onto the field, and then make use of them on the field. One of those better units that I do want to run 4 of, but sadly only had the 1 copy. I believe I traded 1 or, the rest of my playsets to my 1 buddy, but that card is Connection Hunter Severin. When placed on rearguard from drop, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Cristianos and its card name, until end of turn, you may have this unit get plus 10,000. If you do, retire it at the end of that turn. So just making it so then you have this card back in the drop zone during the following turn to call out again. And on the rearguard, once per turn, when it attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your Vanguards. It gets plus 5,000 power to end of turn. If your Vanguard is stood and a grade 3 or greater card with Cristianos and its card name was Soul Blast for this cost, you can stand this unit, giving you the multiple options for multiple attacks. With this card, for added pressure, having the plus 10 when placed by your Cristianos ability. If you Persona Road, that's a 33,000 power unit that can attack, Soul Blast a Cristiano, and then restand again for another attack. For the grade 2s, running 4 copies of Sea Rumble Brave Shooter. When placed on guard circle from hand or discarded from hand for the cost while riding from the ride deck, you can Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card. And also when it's placed on rearguard, if you Persona Road this turn, Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3, choose a grade 2 or less normal unit with a different card name from this unit without Sentinel from your drop, or an order card from your drop, put it into your hand and choose a card from your hand and discard it. So more of the setup for the drop zone power that this card can provide, but also just being able to add back more better units, I would say, to set up on your field using this card. Just needing to Persona Ride that turn, which is very easy to do with this deck to begin with anyway. Other grade 2s that we run in the deck are the 4 copies of Battle Siren Phalanxia. When placed on rearguard from drop, if you have a grade 3 Vanguard with Cristianos and its card name, units gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. So you have the plus 10 from this unit and the potential Persona Ride as well. You just want units that have an additional power increase because you have that easy setup to provide more units from the drop zone thanks to Cristianos, and then just added power. So if you're able to call this out, even when set up in your drop on your first turn, you at least have a plus 10 power unit on its own without even providing the boost. And then for the other grade Choose 3 copies of Love Binding Maiden Margaret. When discarded from hand during your ride phase, you can Soul Blast 1, put it on the bottom of your deck, and draw a card. So very similar to our Brave Shooter for the discard cost for the ride deck, and when it's placed on rearguard, if you Persona Road this turn, counter blast 1, and your opponent cannot intercept till end of turn. All of your opponent's front row rearguards cannot stand during the next phase also. So very, very strong for the intercept option to just stop your opponent's rearguards in the front row. Either they'll just have to, call over those units, or at least have other ways to be able to restand those cards on the field, with this card being able to lock them down completely. For the grade 1s, I'm running the 4 copies of Burrow Mushrooms. You put this unit into your soul, call up to 2 plant tokens to rearguard. So just having more plant tokens set up with this card as well in the deck sets up your soul, but still gives you, better boosted units on the field for you to be able to use against your opponent, depending on the strategy you want to go for against them. It's just more of a soul build-up. I know it's more of a Granfia card, but still very, very useful in many different other decks as well. With our other grade 1s being more in line for the discard costs, 3 copies of Scissors Scorpio. When it's discarded from hand during your ride phase, you may call this card to rear as rest. So another way to set up some of the grade 1s in the back row, while it's called as rest the turn you discard it, you'll at least be able to restand it again, making up for a card that you used for the discard cost for your Vanguard to begin with. Another grade 1 that I use for more of the power options is the 3 copies of Conceited Noble Philander. When placed on rearguard from hand, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among them, discard it, and shuffle the deck. More setup in the drop zone for you to use with Cristianos. And on the rearguard during your turn, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 10,000 power. So another good grade 1 rearguard, just for the fact that there are other cards in the deck that just help with the drop zone setup, and then also just being able to set up those numbers to be able to call back with Cristianos, but also being able to use them as a power boost for our Conceited Noble Philander to begin with. And also 2 copies of Sun Bathing Dragon with the Counter Blast 1, Energy Blast 2 draw option to then also give this unit plus 5 when it boosts if your drop has 10 or more cards, which can once again easily be done with this deck, and then adding more draw power to your hand also, with the last of the grade 1s being the 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude and the 3 copies of Custodial Dragon, just being able to defend against the triple drive power with Elementaria Sanctitude, and then the option with the Custodial Dragon as well. I thought about running one of the Regalis piece like Surrogate to be able to set up more cards with our use of searching out some of the grade 3s that we run in the deck for added search power and then drop zone setup. But if you want to run that, you can always try dropping down maybe one of the Scissors Scorpio for an additional copy of the Regalis piece. For our trigger lineup, we're going with the 7 criticals, so the 4 copies of Aspiring Maiden Alana and the 3 copies of Melodia Pomera. For added pressure, I thought of running the front trigger for this next spot, but decided that hand consistency was kind of lacking in the deck, so 4 copies of Serene Maiden Lena, with our heals being the 2 copies of Soul Repose Pixie, the 1 copy of Narcissus Noble, and the 1 Fairy Asher, with our over trigger being the Bless Favor for the added pressure for our Vanguard, while also being able to heal damage and give more power to the front row that they already didn't gain enough already from the 1 million power if you give it to one of them, or their own skills also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. As I said, we finished the last of the start decks for the added support from the Fated Clash booster set, and I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.